And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Holy Crap, the Vlogcast. Vlogcast that comes from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. This Vlogcast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect because some people don't understand on Facebook why telling them that they suffer from the Dunning-Kruger effect is not telling them that they're stupid, it's telling them that they're ignorant. What's the difference? Ignorance can be cured. I'm your main host. I'm known as Shujin Triple all over the place. You can find me pretty much anywhere that way. Shujin. Welcome to the show. Let me go ahead and introduce you to tonight's lineup, which may alter just a little bit. Top left-hand corner of North America. Good evening, Dalan.
Good evening. I'm beginning to think, given how things have been going in the past few weeks, I should start renaming myself to be the drinking atheist.
Nothing wrong with that. Just north of me over the border. Up in Ontario, good morning, Heretic Woman.
Good morning.
Just outside of the revolving door that is the unemployment office of Washington, D.C., good morning, UnrenownedTech.
It is morning.
Have they hooked a turbine? Have they hooked a generator up to that revolving door yet?
Well, I was going to say is all they need to do is hook up a prop to the turbine, and all the hot air that blows out of D.C. would generate enough electricity to power the eastern seaboard. I mean, Niagara Falls, eat your heart out.
Yeah, I was going to say, though, that's kind of a secondary power source. I was just thinking of the revolving door. I mean,
combine the two, we could power the world.
Yeah, I was going to say, the hot air could knock out the nuclear industry.
All right, somebody quick, get Bill Nye on the phone. We're going to need him. We're going to need a couple engineers.
Yeah.
Get Bateman, just in case.
Yeah.
We'll need Bateman as backup.
See, we see a small problem with that. Yeah. Bill Nye is currently litigating with Disney, Buena Vista, all that stuff, because they kind of shafted him out of about $9 million. So he's working on that. So,
well, you know, if he's low on money, he could just get a small loan from Trump for a couple million, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, you could just invest that and make almost as much money as if you had just left it in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. Just saying.
It's funny we got off talking about energy sources here. No, I know, tangent, I know, but...
Nothing new.
So I see this thing on Facebook today. Somebody's doing like one of those, you know, step 1, do this, step 2, do this, step 4, profit kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I had to chime in because I actually knew something about what they were talking about.
Steel underpants.
Not quite that bad.
From a sorority.
That's frightening. No, one of the things they were talking about was water desalinators. And then they were talking about, okay, so get a whole bunch of wind and solar power generators near the coast. Get these water desalinators to be powered by them, so you get your clean drinking water, whatever, and then step 4, profit. The thing is, I knew a couple of inventors back from my hometown who developed a device called the wave mill. Now, what this is, it's something you basically, originally, it was a device you just put out in the water, particularly in a place that had like a lot of wave activity. And it was designed to take in water, desalinate it so that you get fresh drinking water out of it. The motion of the device was able to not only generate its own power, but also generate a high surplus.
Yep. Yeah, the wave, I forget exactly what the terminology for it was, and I'm going to use a term that some people who are old are probably going to remember. The wave motion engines. I know. Don't hurt me.
Is that the one that powers the wave motion gun?
It could be. We can't use that. It's the Yamato gun. Those things are highly efficient from the standpoint of they don't run out of power to generate electrical power.
Exactly.
Yeah, unless the ocean stops moving, these things keep going.
That would be that would be a bad day.
Yeah, without maintenance, they would break down. And so therefore you've guaranteed employment because they will always need to be maintained.
No, I mean if the ocean suddenly stops, that would be a bad day.
Yeah, that would be a bad day.
Yeah, I think at that point you're generating power and clean water at that point is the least of your worries. Just saying.
That's true.
But yeah, unfortunately, the that particular bit of technology, it didn't really go anywhere. I actually followed up with the guys shortly after I read the article. This is years ago, and I actually contacted them. Turns out one of them remembered my dad
Nice.
from there. So yeah, it was kind of a small world thing. I didn't know them personally, but they knew my family, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, kind of lost sight of them after a while, which was too bad because I think they were onto something. Like, think about, drop a couple of those in, well, look what's going on down in Texas right now. You got Harvey pounding the high holy hell out of the coastline.
Ain't that the case?
Harvey the Wonder Hamster.
Yeah, Harvey the coast banger at this point.
That's 1300 Elmwood Avenue, Buffalo, New York, 14222. Dial carefully and good luck.
Well, what was I going to do? Say Harvey Wallbanger? Really? We're going to name a hurricane after a drink? I don't think so.
Wouldn't, never mind.
But anyway, something like that, because you're going to need fresh water in an area like that. Drop a couple of those in. You've got fresh water being created from the waves off the coast, and with the excess power generation, ta-da! You got generators.
Perfect sense.
But they don't need oil, so let me get my tinfoil hat.
Good enough. And tech next time? Yeah, not so close to the microphone. By the way...
Oh, did it sound like I was peeing in the cup?
Yes, with ice cubes.
Mission accomplished.
Appreciate that. Rejoining us from over the pond into Paris, France.
He just said he'd be right back.
And he just said he was back.
Oh, back in a sec, back. Okay, there we go.
Good morning, Joseph.
Good morning.
Glad you were able to make it. I was a little worried that you weren't going to be able to. I figured you were still asleep.
Oh, yeah, well, I better make it this time.
And as you can see, we're once again off to a flying crash here.
Nothing new. So Joseph's finally with us. Joey might be joining us momentarily. I'm hoping as much. Unfortunately, in this particular case, Brigid has already said that she's got to bow out because she's tired. I don't blame her. I was thinking about getting pinging a couple of people over on Facebook and saying, "Hey, we're last minute. Would you like to join us?" No, I'm not saying that. I'm just thinking of you because I need to pad my numbers. Whatever. So we'll see what happens.
You never invite any angry, violent people.
There's a good goddamn reason for that, because tonight I'm going to be that one. And you'll see. So if you are watching live, of course, and I know there's at least one of you, please take advantage of the text chat. We've got that available, and I've got it on my screen right over there. For me, it's right over there. For you, it could be, I don't care. It doesn't matter.
It's over there.
Yes, and remember, Discord works on your phone device, too.
It does. If you'd like to join us over in Discord, I've got that running on the side for myself also. No voice on that for a good reason, but actually maybe one of these days I'll see about that. But be that as it may. I don't feel like trying to crash my OS, trying to figure out, what does this do? That'd be a bad day right there. Anyway.
Don't push the big red button.
Ain't that the truth? So,
I love the button.
I'm a nerd. You made a big red button. I'm going to push it.
That's a bad day. I did not mark this week's 5-minute freestyle with a warning of any kind, although I was thinking about doing it, and the more I thought about it, the more I thought I really should. And you know what?
Let's put a warning on the show.
No. At this point, no. I'm not.
Warning, UnrenownedTech present for this episode.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd like children to listen, but the chances of that happening at this hour?
Well,
Yeah.
we can bring that up with we can bring it up with Dalan. Dalan, set it up on the server so that kids can't download it during the regular business hours. How's that sound? Yeah, that's what I thought.
Let's come up with a kid's jingle too.
Yeah, let's yeah,
Like one of those ice cream tunes.
Okay, look, the only way the only way we would ever do a show with kid gloves on this thing is if we were like doing it on April Fool's Day.
Well, at least
I'm
that's
not
what we get
wrong.
on.
that's true.
Tinky Winky Poo.
Anyway,
Yeah, depending on what conservative you're listening to, that's just wrong.
so let me get everything rolling tonight, because this is
Let it rip.
there are only a handful of 5-minute freestyles that have affected me after they've been done. This one is getting to me even before. With 5 minutes on the clock, your start is right now. Title on this one was what did I tell you? Seriously, have you not been following the show? Seriously, I mean, what did I fucking tell you? Seriously, there are a handful of times where I can actually say I'm pulling out a 5-minute freestyle from way before, and there's only 2 of them. Sorry, there's 3 of them that I've ever done it for. This is going to be the 3rd one. The first one was the story about Adam and Eve and the apple and the new twist on it all, which, to be fair, I happen to love that one. And every time I bring it up, people love it because they've never thought about it that way. You don't know what I'm talking about? Go back to episode 100 and you can find out part of it right from there when we had just an all-female cast. The second one is where I end up talking about how much money my motherfucking country spends on military and killing people with money, with bombs, with more and more and more because we've got to, because it's a fucking America. What did I tell you? What did I tell you in October of 2015? Do you remember? Do you remember what I told you back in 2015? I do, because I went looking for it. What did I tell you to do during one of my 5-minute freestyles where I told you map this location? Those of you that have been paying attention for a long time know what I'm talking about. Back in fucking 2015, at the end of the year, as we're getting ready over here in my country for the fucking presidential elections, I fucking told you what was going to end up happening. I had you map directly onto fucking Auschwitz. What fucking happened? Seriously, what fucking happened? We got Donald John Trump sitting in the office of the President of the United States of America. You notice I worded it that way, and I didn't word it the actual official way because fuck this guy. And that's part of the reason why I'm wearing a blue hat instead of a red one, because my blue hat has actually got a really good logo on it for a good cause. Because fuck that red hat. Because there's 2 of them out there. You know what the other one is. What did I fucking tell you? We, at the time, were looking at 33% of Republicans that were looking at Donald John Trump and saying, yeah, we want to go ahead and support him for the primaries. We want to go ahead and support him, and he was the front runner with 33% of the people. And now, what have we got going on? We're dealing with fucking Nazis. Literal, actual American fucking Nazis. Giving the Third Reich salute. Chanting, the Jews will not replace us. You will not replace us. Chanting soil and blood. Actually waving legitimate, actual fucking red, white, and black Nazi swastika flags. We had a protester for these people killed by one of them that traveled across state lines and drove over her and killed her. because he was afraid. He traveled across state lines. In high school, he was known to have had all kinds of affinities for the Nazis and for Adolf Hitler, and the high school teacher knew these things and tried to steer him away. His mom said, oh, I knew he was going for a Trump thing, but, whatever. Granted, he's an adult, so, whatever. And now, my president, the president of my country, not only has gone ahead and did not immediately denounce the fucking Nazis, did not immediately denounce that someone was killed with a fucking car, did not immediately call it out as, well, a terrorist act, where in another country it was right on the fucking Twitterverse right away. We have to deal with this? Seriously? Why the fuck? Seriously? Were you not paying attention? We told you. We warned you. And I believe the expression is, and this is the thanks we get. It's episode 176 on the docket, Your Honor. Repeat after me. Now, before I go ahead and get to this, Dalan, you looked at the title for the episode and we spoke about it last night. Would you be so kind?
Okay, well, I did see the title of the upcoming episode, and being a lover of language, because, I am actually trying to do something, called writing, and having watched younger generations, I can't believe I'm dating myself by saying this, but watching people significantly younger than me trying to type stuff out on Facebook, social media, or even just in chats with me. Text messaging I will forgive because, fat fingers, But if you have access to a keyboard, and like a full-size keyboard that even fat fingers can't fool, and the message you're trying to give me is in any way blemished, and I don't mean just, okay, a typo here or there I can get, but if it looks like you are the literal incarnation of Hooked on Phonics worked for me, I'm sorry. I'm going to take issue with you and your apparent lack of literacy. So when I saw the title of the show tonight, Repeat Yourself, spelled R-E-Pete, as in, Peter, my first reaction was to transform into a gigantic purple hairy monster and walk around going, grammar, slammer, bammer, because, yeah, it was like that. So I felt the need to call Shujin out on it last night during our show on Second Life, because usually he's a little better than that.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Does anybody get the grammar slammer bammer reference? I just had to ask.
No.
Oh, shit, that's just a Canadian show?
Yes.
Oh, fuck. No, an old kids' TV show called The Hilarious House of Frightenstein.
Oh, hang on. Well, you go ahead. I have a meme.
Oh, no.
Oh, the theme song, I hope.
Everything has a meme.
No, I made this one specifically.
Oh, okay,
That's how memes get made.
Yeah, people make them. They do not get pooped out of a unicorn's butt like, ice cream.
I know.
Speaking of getting pooped up, getting pooped up like ice cream. Joey, welcome to the show. I'm glad you were able to make it and get the stupid thing working for you now.
Well, I would have been here much earlier had somebody actually included me on the invite list for the damn show.
I did.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, Dalan didn't get it either.
I don't know.
There we go.
Nothing went off. What the?
Oh, good mother God.
Okay, so
Wait, what?
yeah, so for those of you catching the audio edition of this in the year 3526, What you're seeing there is Igor. That's the green
Yes.
guy. Now, the bit of this was Igor would say a sentence, and he would grammatically slaughter it. At which point, this disembodied voice would come in, a gentleman by the name of the Grammar Slammer.
Yes.
And then his buddy here showed up, this kind of a mangy-looking grimace character.
Monster.
Yeah, who was the Grammar Slammer's Bammer.
Bammer.
And his thing was, hammer now?
You wanted to beat the crap out of Igor for having bad grammar.
Well,
and
yeah. And he wanted to actually, beat the grammar into the poor guy.
Yes.
So, Dalan, I aren't likely to buy a hose.
Yep. At that point, yeah. All right, here's the Grammar Slammer. Igor.
Yes.
And as usual, we've got the Grammar Slammer
Bammer.
Hammer now!
No, hammer now.
That's
Not
great.
yet, Bammer. Not yet, Bammer. We'll give him a chance.
Yes.
And that's
See,
just Shujin's way of saying I'm not a hoser.
no.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it was part of an old skit that I had co-opted back from the mid '80s. It was, how radio stations, TV stations would do the emergency broadcast system, and they do whatever test of it is. And they come on and they say, "This is a test. For the next 30 seconds, this station will be conducting a test." And then usually it's followed by the whole, boo.
Yeah.
Well, the
Like this
radio
show.
station, almost. There was a radio station that also had one where the announcer would just continue on with several different questions. One was a history question, one was a math question, and one was, correct this sentence: I aren't likely to buy a hose. And the first time that I remember hearing this one, they left the microphones live in the studio, and everybody in the studio was just dying laughing. And I had Dalan kind of recreate that for me a little bit. So there's comedy.
I think I just remembered one of the bumpers I did a long time ago. This has been a test of the Feline Conspiracy's nuclear alert warning system. Had there been an actual nuclear war, a lot of good that horn would have done.
Yeah.
Well, on a completely aside note.
Yes.
What's this? A tangent? How dare you, sir?
In case he's watching, which I doubt he is, but in the small possibility that he is, to my little brother, congratulations, you flippin' idiot.
Okay.
Is this where we put in the cricket?
I
stick?
apparently now have a new sister-in-law to be.
Well, this is a good thing.
Months after that, another relative? Is that the deal?
Are you getting another one?
Well, I was going to say, and roughly 6 to 8 months after that, another edition?
Oh, I hope not.
Okay.
Oh, no. I was just checking to see the
I'm pretty
caliber
sure-
of the upcoming nuptials.
I'm just saying, with that one in particular, let's pray he never introduces.
Okay, no, I just wanted to see if the upcoming nuptials were, 12 gauge, AA12, 410,
22.
Hike.
But yeah, my little brother popped the question this evening, and apparently she said yes.
Congratulations, then.
I'm glad I'm not the only one drinking tonight.
Guess so. So now that the levity has helped me to calm down a little bit, because the guys know full well how I was after the first time that I went through that style in 2015. So I kind of needed this let down a little bit. Let me go ahead and run through a couple quick items of housekeeping, and we'll get right along with it all. Heretic Woman, we of course talked right before the show started. No new information that I've got. Nothing for you at this point. So unfortunately, as of the recording of tonight's show, this is now 5 years, 2 months, 10 days since Raif Badawi was unjustly incarcerated for thought crime in Saudi Arabia. Our thoughts and our hopes are still with you and your family. We're still hoping. So with that out of the way, the idea for tonight is really that I needed some low-hanging fruit. And partly because of the way that some things have played out, partly because as I showed Heretic Woman, and earlier tonight before we went on, I got into it with somebody yet again. You might remember not too very long ago I had a 5-minute freestyle called "Done Done Done." You remember me talking about that one, of course. That was the very self-same person. And Heretic Woman, knowing that I said "Done Done Done," that all makes sense now, doesn't it? Because the same damn guy.
Yeah.
This guy is reminding me of like the villain on a kid's cartoon show.
Yeah, it keeps coming back.
Yeah, every week he comes back with something new, and every week he gets smacked down exactly the same way he did last week, and he just doesn't frickin' learn.
Oh, the worst part.
Dunning-Kruger.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I'm not going to put the link to the discussion in our show notes. And you folks, unless you are actually friended somewhere along the way, you're probably not going to know anything about this one. But I'm going to make sure that we've all got a link to the discussion, because, well, truth be told, we can all look at this later, because A, it's a little bit long, and B, truth be told, I would like to know from other than Heretic Woman where I went wrong with my arguments. Spoilers? I didn't.
No, he didn't.
But in any case, hey, Chris is up, and salutes to you too. Thanks for being. Nice to see you. If you want in, just say the word, and I'll be more than happy to do that for you.
That's what she said.
Wait a minute. Yeah, okay, Chris, if you're listening, and I hope you are, I'm drinking my beer cold.
Great. That's just flipping great. Anyway, so learning by rote. Okay, the word is there. So learning by rote is something that we've heard about so many times. And there we go. And it's annoying, to say the least. It's a matter of simply give the information, just the little bits of information, just the cookie cutter whole. Give it out. Tell the student to memorize it so that they can then spit it back to you. No context. And that qualifies as passing grade if you can spit that back out again. Okay, let's move on to the next piece. And the only reason you remember it later is because you were told to memorize it. But there's no context. And there's no reasoning. There's no anything other than learn this. That's it. And, it doesn't do any good. Now, the reason why I intentionally misspelt repeat is for exactly that reason. There's no real checking. There's no real understanding. And if something goes wrong in teaching it out, that information just gets taught that way. And, well, nothing can be done about that because, it's locked in. What the hell are you going to do? So we're gonna cover that because religion does that. Some bad educational groups will do that. And really, it's a methodology that just needs to go bye-bye. So whoever wants to pick it up, cool, because I got to try to figure out why. I mean, I sent Chris the invite. I don't know what the hell's going on. So
if he takes a look at his Facebook Messenger, he will find himself a link.
Oh, well, that will work out well.
Yeah. I'm going to step in here.
Be the guest.
Step away.
I told myself I wasn't going to talk too much this time around because I talked my ass off last week.
Yeah, Heretic Woman, you kind of dropped the ball on that one.
It's okay. No, there was a good reason I was talking so much is because it was, hey, how does an outsider look at all the BS going on in the States?
Right.
Telescope.
And I was the only outsider in the group, so I kind of had to.
I was in the woods with a bunch of heathens.
That's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
And probably having a better time. Anyways.
Sometimes I throw popcorn through the bars.
Okay. You talk about context for this, and I'd like to know what kind of context you're speaking of here when you're talking about learning by rote. Are we talking memorizing Shakespeare? Are we talking the multiplication tables in math? Are we talking how to do certain kinds of spelling techniques for the English language?
Well, let me
which sphere of education has got this burr up your ass?
Let's start off with the really good one.
Okay.
10-year-old kid.
Yeah.
All right.
In a blender?
Almost.
JoeCartoon.com.
Has his head hacked off because he can't properly recite by memory parts of the Quran.
Okay.
Yes.
That context. That one I will graciously get behind you on.
See, now here I was going to try to be funny and just say blend tech. But
yeah. No. Okay. When it comes to something like that, okay. You're throwing religion in the mix, and of course, we've all seen footage of what Ken Ham likes to do. When someone says millions of years, what do you say? Were you there? And
were you there?
Were you there?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean,
no, but you see, I've got this book.
Well, no, because for him it's observational versus
historical.
Thank you. Apparently, I'm too drunk now. No,
this is not the banana guy, right?
No. This is the other Australian. This is Amish Wolverine.
Amish Wolverine. No, and Ray Comfort's a Kiwi.
Yes. We can't blame Australia for him.
I was going to say, okay, bad enough he's from New Zealand, which already has a bit of a reputation. Ask any Australian. Not as bad as a Tasmanian, mind you, but still.
No,
and he's been tied to the banana. That.
Actually, New Zealand has a pretty good reputation since he's not there anymore.
Unless you're a sheep.
Yeah.
Or a banana.
Yes.
Actually, New Zealand is one of the most secular countries on the planet.
Well, I know. I know. All I'm saying is that, and I think I've said this before, and I think Nick Morganmore was on the show at the time when I said that I think New Zealanders are kind of like Australia's version of the Newfie.
Okay. So what's a Tasmanian?
The Newfies that go out screeching.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry,
yeah.
a little bit of Canadian.
I like everything I see about that country so far.
Anyway.
By the way, just to backtrack a little bit, that whole "were you there" thing, Dark Matter 2525 created a really neat video based around the concept of what would happen in today's life if you weren't there to actually observe the things that have happened.
Yeah.
What the results would be. And it's a very hilarious video. I mean, he calls him Ken Spam and so on and so forth. And obviously there's a lot of, some stuff, to call into question his character and so on and so forth. But pay attention to the mechanics more than anything. And right towards the end. And that's what it is. That's what Ken Ham was saying is how we're supposed to approach, everything that since you weren't there, you can't possibly know, kind of thing.
Yeah, but getting back to it, the whole thing about learning by rote, like I grew up, having to memorize the multiplication tables. When I was in chemistry class in high school, any chemistry buffs here will know the what they called stoichiometry, which is measuring elemental masses. To hammer into our heads how to do that, we were actually assigned 200 questions for atomic weights and stuff like that had to use these formulas, and we had to write it all out. I mean, these were not excuse me, these were not small formulas that we had to crunch through. And what I got from the multiplication tables what I got from, long division, well, what I got from the multiplication tables helped me get through long division questions during math exams. The stuff in chemistry, of course, that of course helped me with that. I still remember a lot of the values and numbers that came my way, and I'm going on close to 30 years since I've, even cracked a book like that. So to say that, to completely wipe out the idea of teaching by rote for some things, I think is a bad idea. But then when you did the context of, okay, you can't recite the whole thing of the Quran, yeah, thump. That one I'm going to have to agree with you on.
You think your multiplication tables are bad? Try that with a very angry nun, a ruler, and let's see, the Stations of the Cross, the beads of the Rosary.
Yeah, those are.
Yeah, but at least you didn't get your head cut off.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. The head cut off, I think the pain is momentary. Ruler across the knuckles, I get the feeling that shit lasts.
Of course, if you're Jewish, getting your head cut off means something completely different.
Yeah, but at that point, you're so damn young, you don't remember it until, you start doing the whole regressive hypnosis thing. It all comes back, and you come out of it screaming.
Of course, you might remember it if you get infected for life, too.
Jobs you shouldn't do.
Or you get herpes from the oil.
From our friends at crack.com.
Yeah.
And
by the way, there's a nice picture for you there, Dalan.
Just the tip.
Yeah.
I like the fact that he's now saying that atheists, did the whole thing to make him look bad. And I was like, it's your freaking video.
No, you're the guy who was a bloody moron and didn't understand.
Look.
Okay.
You were going over the cliff anyways.
Yep.
If the atheist just happened to give that little extra nudge or that little, the final thing, okay. But you were going over anyway.
Okay. I just want to say...
thinking.
Hey, Jeff.
I just want to say something real quick. It's just... I like to think that I've learned quite a lot throughout my life. Not even half of that, I would say, came from the classroom. From my perspective, and this is coming from somebody who has not only been in Catholic school, but also public school, and through college, somehow. Plain and simple, you never stop learning. And honestly, the way I look at the way our education system here is in America is to help get you in the right mindset for learning. Mm-hmm. It's not meant to teach you everything. It's going to teach you the basics, but it's not going to teach you everything. You have to go out and you have to do the work to, figure out the way this kind of thing is going to go. However, with that said, I will say that as someone who has attended Catholic school, no truer words were ever spoken than these.
Oops.
Never let formal education get in the way of your learning, Mark Twain.
I don't agree that that education is an incitation to learn. I think it's more, it's almost a cap on that. For me, it's a conformity school. I mean, they give you, okay, this is what you need to get to fulfill this role at this level in life, and it ends there.
I don't know about. Well, hold on. I don't know.
They don't teach you to learn. It's almost by rote memorization.
There are certain things that
it's a programming.
There are certain things that by rote is really the only realistic way of doing it. The multiplication tables, for instance, I can't think of another way of really doing it. Now, that having been said, to pass a phrase again, there is also Schoolhouse Rock, which doesn't exactly do it by rote exactly, but at least it gives an additional pathway. Now, eventually you do have to you do have to kind of claw your way up from what does 1 mean, and then what does 2, and then how do you add, and then how do you then multiply, because you take a step up and take a step up and take a step in the cognizant understanding of math itself. And I'm using specifically math because pretty much everybody knows how math is supposed to work. But there are certain pieces where what you're saying makes sense to me. The piece of you learn to a certain level. And that's something that is, I don't know that it's specific to the US education. I think it is mostly the West, where you go through kindergarten. There are certain things you're supposed to learn by the end of your year. You go through first grade, second grade, third. There are certain plateaus that you are supposed to have reached. And you really can't get pushed beyond those, even if you could.
Yeah.
Because they're not really designed to push you over those plateaus. So there's a certain degree of what you're saying that I tend to agree with, at least until you get out of the public education, lower education, and you get into areas where you start to do your own research, like high school, late high school, I should say, and early college, because you got to learn how to do all that stuff.
I do have a question about again, coming at this from an outsider, the American high school system.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys have, you had certain courses that were compulsory, then you had electives?
Electives, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's the same that we dealt with up here. We had, there were certain ones we had to take each year, like English. We had to take a level of math. Now we could take more advanced. I actually got into calculus in grade 12.
Yeah, we also have what's called the college preparatory program.
Yeah, maybe in some of the bigger cities in Canada we do that. Where I grew up, we didn't.
We sort of did it where we had the general stream and the advanced stream and the basic stream. So if you were in the advanced stream, it was sort of the idea you were planning to go to university. The general stream was you could probably go to college or tech school or something like that. And basic was folks who needed more help and whatnot. So maybe some special ed in there too.
Yeah.
I will say. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
After you. No, after you.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Joe.
Trying to out-Canadian one another.
I'm not Canadian. I'm just polite. Now, finish your fucking thought. Fucking Canuck.
Hey, that's about as polite as we're going to get from an Irish Catholic.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I will beat the maple syrup right out of you.
Right now, the only thing you're going to be beating out of me is all the beer I've been drinking.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm doing the dark side of Canadian tonight.
Ooh.
All I'm saying is that, holy shit, this beer is actually pretty strong. I wasn't expecting that.
You keep saying that. You're going to get reincarnated as a Canada goose. You know that.
Well,
good, then I'll be able to fly down there and annoy the high holy living fuck out of all of you.
Wait, you mean a Wawa?
No, I'm basically saying...
No, Wawa is a town in Ontario. Damn it.
It's also the name of an goose, I believe.
No, it's the name of a chain of convenience stores in the South.
Anyway, Dalan, finish.
No, yeah, we didn't have any formal college streams or anything like that. We had a guidance counselor. We could tell him, this is what we want to do, and he would say, okay, this is the course load I'd recommend for you, and then we could choose to take that or not. Again, which was fine, but growing up, like you said, kindergarten, you expect you to reach a certain plateau. And I think what grade school does, like at least up to the point where you no longer have a choice, or where you don't have a choice in what's being taken, is they're trying to expose, like, it's like a record company. They throw absolutely everything at the wall in the hopes that something sticks. And then that's the thing they chronically overplay, make a few $1 million out of it. And when it's all done and it's all wrung out, they toss it over their shoulder. I think with a lot of education systems, it's the same thing. They blast you with every possible thing that they can in the hopes that something piques the student's interest. And like, then they kind of get, okay, you know what? I'm actually good at this. Or this is a subject I enjoy. So now I can gear myself to not necessarily focus on that solely, but keep in mind that I'm actually good at this and that I can try to foster it. So that as I eventually get into an educational level where I can start making my own choices, I can choose to gear myself towards that because I'm good at it. But up to that point in the formative years, you know, the whole By Rote and everything like that, I think is still kind of important because you're trying to kickstart a mind. And just to say like, oh, you know, well, it's all how you feel. How do you tell a 5-year-old kid it's all about how you feel when the kid is barely cognizant of what a feeling is? Like, that's the bad thing. What I see with a lot of things these days is that kids are expected to be independent at a far, far younger age than their brain is even able to be these days. At least that's what I'm seeing.
I can agree with you on one point, is that I didn't see the point of it all.
Yeah.
But I can't say, I don't know about that expectation that kids become independent. I actually see the opposite happening. They want kids to conform.
Well,
just shut up and obey.
Yeah, I think as you get, like, if you get into the point where you're forcing,
question, obey.
Well, yeah, when you're asking for conformity at a slightly more mature age of these kids, then I think that's a problem. But when they're younger, like, and I'm just talking the basics. I'm talking reading, writing, arithmetic. I'm not talking political bend or, you know.
Or neither am I.
Like I don't think, honestly, when I was in grade 6,
my biggest
teacher,
question when I was in school was, why are we learning all this? And I never got an answer to that.
No, it was kind of funny. Last year, I was in North Carolina doing a job, and I work in the transit industry. And one of the things we were showing the customer, one of our features was the ability to have a bus play an announcement for an upcoming stop based on your GPS distance to the stop. We could actually set a proximity trigger for that in the computer. And they threw something at me. They threw at me this the thing saying that from where a stop should start announcing to when the bus actually arrives at that stop is usually, like, to stop and actually let somebody off is usually about 9 seconds. So now I know the amount of time required to successfully play a stop in proper time. I have an idea of the speed the bus is going at the time. And I would know, because of the GPS, I would know the distance to the stop. There's actually a mathematical formula you could develop. I found out later that it was actually a calculus thing that I could actually throw to a developer. He could actually plug that into the system as an algorithm and come up with the ability to, we could basically throw in a value saying, okay, if we're expecting the bus to take 9 seconds from notice of announcement to the stop, then we no longer have to do trial and error with, you know, a trigger distance. because it's all rolled into this mathematical formula. If I hadn't known about multiplication tables or all that kind of stuff, again, having that pounded into my head as a kid, it never would have occurred to me.
Yeah.
Something even more benign. My first vehicle was a 1970s Chevy half-ton. The speedometer was an Imperial, or American.
Thanks.
And did not have the little dial inside to show kilometers.
Okay.
Fastest way to do a conversion from a metric speed sign to imperial, divide by 10, multiply by 6. So there, you learn very fast. You learn how to do that on the fly. And again, I credit the fact that I had that shit drilled into me when I was a kid, that I was able to arrive at that stuff on the fly without having to look at a gauge that wasn't going to help me anyway.
Joey, you wanted to say?
Well, I wanted to say that, yes, the education system that we look at here in America, for the time being, it's you get the basics, that's it. But there is something to be said about the teachers themselves. Probably one of the biggest things that a teacher can do for a child is inspire them.
Mm-hmm.
And we have lost a lot of that. As Carl Sagan once commented on that, kindergartners and first graders, you go to talk to them and they'll ask you things like, what's the birthday of the planet? And, how old is the universe? And they ask you these curious questions. You don't get any question of that sort from, a 12th grader.
No, because by then Ken Ham's already answered it for them.
Something has gone terribly, terribly wrong with the education system in this country. Something terrible has happened to these children in the period between first grade and 12th grade, and it ain't just puberty.
Yeah. And actually, Joseph, I can, you were asking earlier, what is this for? When I was in university, I actually did confront a professor on that, because some of the stuff we were learning to me just made no sense. So I confronted him on it. And I sure didn't like the answer I got. Matter of fact, that was the year I left university.
Oh, wow.
No, he said
the answer.
Well, I asked him, I said, okay, look, this course we're taking, I'm learning the basics of a technology that is basically dead, that has no practical application in the real world. And I said that because...
Fortran?
Oh, worse.
DOS.
Motorola circuit design.
Oh
boy.
Yeah.
And that's weird that a brand name technology, a proprietary technology, is being taught in a school.
Well, the thing is, well, no, it was because the Motorola chip, or the chipset, actually does its thinking, its logic pattern is actually kind of a left to right. So it would kind of follow, say, what a Western student would know, just given how we read and everything and how we write. Everything is left to right. The philosophy behind the original Motorola chipset, it was like, we're talking the 68,000 series here. That was a left to right, or what they called a little endian philosophy. So I kind of understand why they went that route, even though the Motorola chipset was only used in Macs at the time. So, hey, I could have got a job with Apple. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I asked him, I said, okay, what practical applications does this have for me? And he looked at me and he says, well, we're trying to give you more of a philosophical approach to this kind of stuff. Right there. I'm pouring thousands of dollars, and at the time, of hard-earned money, because I didn't have student loans at the time. I was working my ass off during the summer in places where hot metal could burn me alive, and I just about did once or twice, so that I could learn philosophy. I'm wanting to get into computer science, and you're teaching me something that I might be able to impress some nerd with at the water cooler, bye-bye. I was out of university that year. I ended up at a tech school where I asked the same questions with the courses I was getting. And at that point, they said, yeah, this will get you a job doing this. This will teach you, you know, here you are looking at a motherboard, and I'm teaching you a networking course. Here's how the networking card works. Here's how it interfaces. What's that going to get you? That can get you a job as an entry-level network tech, at which point you work underneath a guy, eventually get a promotion, supersede him, and start rolling in the money. And now here I am flying all over the US and Canada doing just that.
So while we got that, let me go ahead and let you guys get filled in on a couple of items, because we have someone joining, well, I should say rejoining us, and we may actually have another rejoining us in a couple of moments.
Ooh.
All the way from, well, I'm not quite exactly sure where it was. It was somewhere south of Mordor, last I checked. Good morning, Chris.
Yeah, we're actually leaving Mordor in the near
Welcome
future.
back.
He's going to someplace cooler. It's called hell.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, I'm Chris. I'm based in the north of England. I used to turn up to these Sunday morning shindigs quite regularly, but stopped about 6 months ago for anyone who's new, who's not seen my face.
So for those of you that are new to the show, yes, I know. Who? Yes, that's a valid answer at this point. Don't worry about it. And as a matter of fact, I just got pinged over on Facebook by somebody else who is going to see about joining us in a moment. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself. And Chris, I'm going to give you an opportunity to kind of talk a little bit. I'm assuming that you kind of caught what was going on with the topic and all. So
yeah, I've caught on with the topic, but as I've been sorting out tech issues for about the last 5 minutes, I'm not up to speed on where the discussion is at the moment. So if it's okay, I'll let everyone else continue and join in when I'm up to speed.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm gonna get Jake Farr-Wharton to join us over from Australia in a moment. He's actually out on a run, and he kind of owes me an appearance because he kind of skipped out last week, bastard, which was kind of funny. I'll tell you guys about that in a couple of seconds. Once Jake, there he is, as opposed to Hugo and. Because where we're going at the, I still have to do that. I know. Now, see, like I was saying earlier, the idea of learning by rote for certain things, I don't really know that there's very much that you can really do. But there are other areas of learning, especially history, for instance, where I am absolutely and totally against learning by rote. I am much more you should learn history as a narrative instead of just by rote. So that's, that isn't exactly on the same avenue as the religious teaching, but we'll kind of get around to that. And also to introduce, because he just popped over in here, from somewhere down under, out where the Roos reside, Mr. Jake Farr-Wharton from the Imaginary Friend Show. Good afternoon to you.
Hey, buddy, how you going?
I'm doing better than you. I'm sitting down and I have no pants.
I have no pants. Oh, I got a wallaby in front of me.
Whoa.
Do you want to see?
Okay, what exactly is a wallaby?
Yes, let's show us a wallaby.
Is that kind of like a root light?
Yeah, I think
Kinda.
so.
Just give me a second. I kind
Sure.
of be quiet. I got a hard case on.
Okay, I better
No,
mute myself in case I end up belching through the speaker.
He's run. No, it's all right. I've got headphones on, but he's run. That's all right. I'll see plenty more.
Okay.
It's a smaller, mid-sized macropod found in Australia. They belong to the same taxonomic family as kangaroos. basically miniature kangaroos.
That's what I
Ooh,
said.
that's
Roulette.
Roulette.
There's
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of biological differences, but essentially they do look like a vastly smaller kangaroo.
Yeah,
Are they just as nasty?
Jake, I am currently not sober enough to get into like the entire of the minutiae here.
Well, so everybody's up to speed, by the way. Just so you guys understand. Yes, Jake sounds like this because he's out on a run, or at least that's the story that he's giving me right now.
Let us know when he's done. Huh?
He's running away from the wallaby.
Which is actually that's
Something really cool. There was an ancient kangaroo, which was giant and carnivorous.
well. I'm glad all they eat is eucalyptus now.
No,
No, that's
I know.
That's the koala. You're thinking of drop bears, dude.
I know. But anyway, so I'm
So
assuming
they
you're.
won't eat you. They only eat Christians.
Okay. That's
So, Jake, so I don't have you burn out all of your data plans since you're out and running, which very cool.
No, I'm happy to talk, buddy. I was just going to mute while you guys are talking. I'll chime in when I got something to say.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, I'll be watching for you, and thank you.
Let us know if you see another wallaby. That'd be cool.
So, so like I was saying, learning various things by rote, yeah. But there are, like I said, history is one of those things where if you don't understand the narrative, you don't really understand all of what there is to it. Case in point, Joe and Dalan and I have spoken on many an occasion the idea that World War II was kind of World War 1.5.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Now there are arguments being made for that, but yeah, well, yes, as opposed to literally just being called World War II.
Excuse me.
But for most people, and I say that with air quotes, most people would not understand. It simply would not compute until you kind of explain the rest of the narrative as to why there is that concept.
Yeah, and actually, I never really saw it like that until one of my college history courses, where we looked at, okay, so we had World War I, and then we were actually looking at the intervening years between 1918 and 1939, and everything that was going on, and that, like, and it was great too, because the instructor actually said, like, she started, it was like a thesis almost, where she said World War I didn't necessarily end in 1918. It kind of sort of ended in 1945. And of course, everybody in the class went, what? And then she proceeded to lay it out about, the economic things and all this, and like the way it worked out. So when you said it was kind of more or less World War 1.5, yeah, I actually saw that. And the nice thing about it, she actually proved it to us.
All she had to do was bring out the Versailles Treaty.
Yes.
Which she did. But again, for a guy going into, the tech world for business, did I really give a damn about it at the time? No. I mean, I had to take the course because it was an elective so that I could get a degree. But it was still really damn interesting to hear and to actually get into it.
It's missing the context always, because if you explained it from almost from a human behavior perspective, like just like a general outline or timeline of what went on, the rivalries, and this goes quite a way back. I mean, this goes all the way back to the Prussian Empire, actually.
Yeah, and the nice thing about this instructor, she actually did go. She did pursue all of that. So that actually, by the end of it, we had a really nice historical context that actually helped maybe not necessarily, put a QED on the end of her thesis, but at the very least got us to understand where she was coming from and the context behind it.
Yeah.
What I would have liked to understand was if somebody had explained to me, well, things happen because of things that happened before. It sounds ridiculously stupid, but when you're a kid, anything that happened before 10 years ago seems like ancient history, and all in the same kind of like vague, mysterious. It's hard to describe, but
when you're
have that.
To be fair, when you're 8 years old, anything that's 10 years older, yeah, it kind of goes that way. Chris, you were almost about to pop there.
Say, someone mentioned earlier things about inspiration and engagement with a subject, and while learning by rote is necessary and does teach some valuable skills like the ability to recall, memorize and recall information, which we need to some degree on a day-to-day basis. A dry list of facts or dates and things and whatever is not engaging or inspiring material. It doesn't hold the imagination in any way for the vast majority of people. So learning history, as Dalan was talking about, by the narratives of what, say, for example, the First World War, the situations that led up to that, how the war developed in terms of narratives, what the perspectives were on either side, is fascinating. And through that, you learn about thinking about different perspectives, different sources of information, all kinds of valuable skills on there that simply memorizing the facts and the dates doesn't teach.
Yeah, and that's
in regards to history. I get that a lot from people because you guys know I'm a history nerd and I love that stuff. And I hear younger people, history's boring, and I want to smack them upside the head. But half the time it's because they're just memorizing piles of names and dates and, this happened in this year and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no. It's so much more exciting than that.
This is the problem that I was talking about before. It's not it's not just the fact that rote, it has a very specific place in education, I think, but I forget who it was, but I believe it was a Greek teacher who had said that there are no bad teachers, no bad students, just bad teachers. Because if you can't inspire, and Jake,
well,
I hear what? Hold on, Jake's got he's got to shout longer.
I was just going to say that there are a few, didactic subjects like all of the sciences. Effectively, you have the rote learning, but even subjects, all of the humanities. Which includes obviously history, includes law. They all require, or business. They all require.
Sorry, Jake, we lost you there. They all business. They all require.
I may have lost his signal.
He was eaten by a wallaby.
Yeah, Heretic Woman. Speaking on that, you're talking about a history teacher and stuff. I had a history professor in university. I was taking ancient medieval history.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
I'll stop.
Yeah, Jake. Sorry, we lost you when you got to business and then law.
Okay. Well, it was actually really interesting.
Yeah, I know.
all of the humanities subjects effectively rely on some form of narrative, and it's really only the hard sciences that require that didactic form of rote learning.
I would say even with the sciences, there's very little sort of actual rote learning that you need to do. A lot of it can be taught with a minimization of rote learning.
Can you give an example?
like for example, with basic physics, rather than sort of memorizing equations, learning like the context and how they fit together in a more narrative style, on there makes it just as you means you can derive most of them from memorizing, maybe half a dozen things instead of like 20 or 30.
That's very cool.
Similar with chemistry, if you understand the structure of the periodic table, on there, it minimizes the amount of rote learning you have to do to be able to understand how things fit together.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, it's a really good point. I was going to say though, one of the most enjoyable things that I'm getting to do at the moment is working through and garnering lessons from wartime. So there's particularly in terms of management theory, because there's we can obviously teach theoretical frameworks, and they go to a certain point. But actually looking at the historical context, where they were developed, where they became necessary, where you can apply the lens of today on a historical example of, say, a battle where something has gone awry, or where communication broke down, or where appropriate project management was not applied, is really quite interesting. Not just interesting, actually, it's quite engaging.
Yeah.
Here's that.
I just wanted to make one note. You're talking about the humanities. In the U.S., anyways, that's the humanities courses are disappearing, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, to a certain degree, yeah. I do have to say, when I was graduating, which was 1987. I know, I'm old, 39. Shut up. For all you math nerds, there you go. I was not able to take an actual course called humanities, which is traditionally a senior high school course, because I was taking I was totally loaded up on music courses, because that's what I was concentrating on. So I would really want for a quote unquote humanities course to really be something that's not just a singular course where, okay, here's what humanities is, but kind of peppered along a whole bunch of other pieces, where later you can actually say, okay, all these other pieces, here's where it all comes together for you. And by the way, Jake, I did need to ask you, since you would use the term didactic, would you be so kind to explain exactly what that means? Because it's one of those bigger words that some would know, some would not.
And this is a kids show, so
yes,
I probably can't provide a complete definition for you, but
close enough.
A working definition is just a theoretical, so or paper based. It's a useful word in the context that I used it, but I probably can't give you a direct definition, I'm afraid.
So kind of like providing a model that's not exactly in practical use at this point, sort of more of a concept. Would that be...
No, didactic is more reading off a piece of paper. It's being given a textbook to read from.
Okay.
Instead of engaging learning.
Okay, Tech, you had something?
Yeah, I was pulling up the dictionary version.
Yes, thank you.
No problem. It's an adjective. Anyway, there's two primary definitions for this thing. The first one is intended to teach, particularly in having moral instruction as an ulterior motive.
What?
An example given is a didactic novel that set out to expose social injustice. And the second definition was in the manner of a teacher particularly so as to treat someone in a patronizing way.
That's all over the place.
So, yeah, well, I was going to
So
say,
basically, what you're saying is it was used in the entirely wrong context.
Yeah.
I'm just saying what I read.
you know, to be perfectly honest, the first time I ever heard the word didactic was during a sketch Jim Carrey was doing impersonating Woody Allen. And even then, I still had absolutely no frickin' clue what he was talking about.
Yeah, Jake, are you sure that you're not using a term for a dinosaur? Because you've got much higher education than the rest of us. What?
Hang on. I went straight to Merriam-Webster and plugged it in there as well. And Merriam-Webster is putting the moral stuff second, and it's saying designed or intended to teach, intended to convey instruction and information, as well as pleasure and entertainment, such as didactic poetry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it looks like it depends on the source.
Well,
Well,
Jake,
either way, it was used incorrectly.
you know what?
Yeah, I am 0 for 2.
It's you know what, Jake? It's
So Shujin,
he's
the next time you're on Shujin, the next time you're on his show, you're gonna have to pull that word out.
you both.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I'm going to be doing. Negative 50 points is not where I want to be. And by the way, Jake, I'm going to excuse you because I'm going to assume that you're on a runner's high right about now. How's that for you?
Yep, second win coming. I do have to drop off, I'm afraid, because I'm under power lines and I'm going to drop off properly.
No worries. You stay safe. Thank you so much, man. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, good talking to you,
Watch
man.
out from.
Yeah.
Don't hang around those power lines too long. You'll get cancer.
It's not a tumor.
It will be soon.
I had the tumor.
Take
a
care.
headache.
So you
We'll
go.
talk
It's
to
a
you later.
haddock if you're in a lake.
All right, so that was Jake Farr-Wharton from the Imaginary Friend Show, Doubtcomb Podcast. I will make sure that his information is in the show notes for everybody. Nice guy. I will be on his. I will be appearing on his show soon. Might have won this week. Anyway,
You know, I was
yeah.
gonna say, Shujin, you were talking about the humanities.
Oh, the
Yeah.
humanities.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to give you an idea. Like me, I hold a Bachelor of Science in
lucky you.
computer science. Well,
Hey, what you
Exactly.
do with him is on your own time.
I wouldn't exactly call it luck. I mean, there was that was a lot of years, a lot of tears, and a lot of sleepless nights.
I'm sorry. I've got computer husbandry running for me, so I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
but like worth every penny, in my opinion.
Input output ports, man. I'm sorry. I'm having a really hard time right now.
Okay, we're not going to talk about my girlfriend here tonight. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, but in
One-time
order,
main character.
but like in order for a person, even in the technological world, to get a fully accredited degree from a university, a college, a technical institute, anywhere where they are accredited, it can't just be your core. And they were talking about disappearing of humanities, which is really too bad because I had to take an entire semester of nothing but humanities. My last semester in college, there was no technical courses involved because I'd actually already taken all of them. I'd finished that part of it. Now I had to round things out in order to get the necessary rounding that would qualify me for a Bachelor of Science. And the courses I ended up taking were social issues in technology.
Oh, there's someone at Google that could have benefited from that course.
Oh, hell yes. you know, the funny thing was, my final presentation in that course, I called it Turn It Off. And it was actually talking about how computer camps for kids during the summer were the worst thing you could do to a kid. Just based on what I saw from these articles I read on these computer camps. They were actually contributing to a lot of the social anxiety on an interpersonal level that we're seeing these days, where you put a bunch of kids in a room together, like these days, they don't know what to do, like how to interact with each other. Put all of those same kids in front of a computer in the same room, and there's instant messages and chats flying all over the freaking place. it's as if now they need the computer as a means to communicate because they don't know how to interact personally with another human being without that barrier or without that that wall between them of technology. This is something I was seeing back in like 95, 96. We're 21 years past that. And like I said, the whole presentation behind it was, sometimes you just got to turn the damn thing off. And the professor actually joked at me. He says, "So what, are you going Luddite on us?" I'm like, no. But I also know the value of a handshake over the value of an emoticon that says hello.
Yeah, there's a piece about this, by the way. That there's a meme, a funny picture that's gone out around that talks about how socially introverted people, geeks, nerds, don't like to get into social situations, and that's a complete misidentification. Probably using the wrong terminology right now for how these people are, because you get them to a comic convention or a sci-fi convention, and oh shit, they will go ahead and they will interact with each other like you would not believe before. And I think it's got to do with the same idea. It's a matter of finding that piece that actually is common. Now, the problem with that becomes, of course, that it's a separated commonality, which is kind of ironic.
2 words. FurCon. Same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, guys like you and me, Shujin, and Joey here, we're kind of the exception of the rule. But then again, we're a lot older than the mean age of these things. Like, both the beards here, you got a little bit of silver in them, which means, we were around before the computer was the cool tool. We had to do interpersonal things because that's all we had.
I'd like to kind of unpackage that a bit, because, and I'm pulling out my critical thinking card again, but
please do. My brain is slightly addled at this point.
Geeks tend to be critical thinkers, and critical thinkers, they like to exchange concrete facts, which instinctively it's exchanging survival information. But anyways, anything concrete, anything that'll better inform us about our environment and all that and how to deal with it. But it's actual things we're concerned about. It's your comics convention. Okay, it's total fantasy, but it's kind of a representation of the same thing. Okay, Eek's character did X at a certain episode, which led to X, which it's almost like a concretization of events. They're actually looking for explanations. So that's what most of the conversation is about. So it's basically understanding the environment. Whereas social skills are more imitation than anything. You see somebody behaving in a certain way in front of you, and you're supposed to react to that. And your reaction will send a signal, and the other person will react accordingly, and so on and so on. It's a completely different skill set.
That makes sense. Because
it does.
How do you, when you are engaged in that particular context, and you're saying how you respond sends the message, well, how do you know what the right message is to send? By observing.
I think that's what they call. I think that's what they call emotional intelligence nowadays.
Yeah, but you learn by observing others in similar situations, so that you can get a sense of how you should react in such a way that generates a not negative response. So I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, because dealing in facts, it's kind of almost in a way, it's almost cowardly, because we can always refer to the facts. You don't have to depend on my body language as in my confidence level to be convinced enough to believe me. You can actually go and check the facts yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, delivery has something to do with that, though. Like you're talking about body language and stuff. A person could throw any number of facts at me in a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
If it's thrown at me in such a way that I am receptive. So, you know, for a guy like me, like I react positively to things like, you know, respect. If I get the sense that you know what you're talking about without you being or coming off as an arrogant, you know, butthead, you know, I'm going to be more inclined to either take it, pardon the phrase, on faith, or I'm also going to be, I may be more inclined, you know, like, okay, you know what, this guy's got something to say here. This is now on my radar. I want to check it out.
But that's a skill, because that's a social skill. That's applying a social skill on top of a level. Like a geek, imagine that he has 0 social skills. Well, you know,
Okay,
no matter
enough about
what,
my old roommates.
yeah. Or about me.
Trust me, Joseph, I know
but-
exactly where you're coming from on this one.
But like, in the end, even if he has 0 social skills and like he's like whatever, like somebody in a total rage at him about something, if it turns up a total blank, you know, at the end, he can just go look it up. And he probably will anyways, but anyways, if he's geeking
Yeah,
off.
but once
I
again,
would say that's probably a mischaracterization of geeks.
I'm not saying that, I'm not making a categorization or anything like that.
No, but you know, with the
If you are a critical thinker, you do tend to want to verify things yourself.
yeah, on there. No, I meant with regard to the social skills. I'd say it's very much a matter of sort of arena and engagement, and confidence and things like that. And because, as has been mentioned, if you get a load of geeks at a comic convention or a Star Trek convention or whatever else, where there is, let's say, a sort of a safe arena or whatever, they'll be like amazingly social on there. But in an everyday social situation where it may not be an arena that they're comfortable with, and so I find this myself, then it's then that's unlikely to engage to the same extent. And but if you put a sort of an average non-geeky person in the middle of I don't know, Fernal Equinox or something, they probably wouldn't know what to do with themselves.
Well, speaking as someone who revolves in those fandoms, there's even subsets of that I have a hard time contributing anything to, especially 2 or 3 of my friends in the fandom here locally are fursuit makers. Very talented fursuit makers, I might add. And when they get together and start talking shop, my eyes just kind of glaze over, because it's like, okay, they're talking about vacuum form, fabric types, fittings, internal mechanics, and they do eventually get into concepts that I'm just kind of like, I like the art, you know, that's about all I can contribute to the whole thing, you know.
Yeah,
but
and at that point,
right.
do you feel sort of like a bit, if you're among a group that's going that direction, do you feel a bit awkward or excluded, or sort of out of your depth?
Well, definitely out of my depth, because again, I'm not, I don't move in that kind of circle, because you know, I'm not that kind of artist, you know.
Yeah.
Now, put me in a circle with a bunch of writers. You know, yeah, there are still things they will talk about that are getting a little bit over my head, things getting into like publishing, final editing, beta reading, all that kind of stuff. But we start talking plot devices, we start talking imagery, we start talking world building. I'm in there like a dirty shirt.
Yeah.
Okay. Because this is stuff that's kind of relevant to, you know, this is what I like to do in my spare time.
So you're talking about familiarity.
Yeah.
Should I remind you should I remind you that, you know, okay, I'm going way down the rabbit hole here, but our default.
Okay, which is not listening.
Our default emotion for everything is fear, and if we are not familiar with a certain subject, well, our hesitation is a lesser form of that same fear, you know. And if it's something we're used to talking about, if it's an environment we're familiar with, then of course we're going to feel comfortable in it.
Well,
but also going back to the social skills part, one of those social skills is masking that fear. Like pretending that you are familiar with something you're not, because there's a fair amount of bullshitting going on in everyday conversation.
Yeah,
Facebook can be a can be a record of that. But I mean, like the geeks, if they don't have the social skill to do that, then of course it's going to be. I don't know on this one, because I'd move in a number of different fairly geeky circles, and for me, I'm not trying to categorize geeks. I'm just saying I'm trying to explain the dynamic. What's going on there?
Yeah. No, I was talking. It was about on the familiarity level. So, if I'm like in a bar or something with a group of work colleagues, and they're all talking about sports and whatever, and say sort of their taste in music and whatever else, like the kind of normal everyday conversations. That is really not my shop, and on there, and I feel that I don't out of my depth. I don't have a lot of to contribute or input, and so I generally like step back and probably appear a bit antisocial. On there, you put me in, say, another
appears should be underlined there.
Yeah, that's the appearance, and then but you put me in the situation, you know, with people that I'm happy with, talking about something that engages me. Then I'm fine. I'm so more than happy to contribute, join in, and probably appear much more social. In those, you know, and on there. So it's, again, I think it was, a lot of it is that some people like appear antisocial, or that's exaggerated, because they may have a different interest to the sort of majority of people that you'd meet in an everyday social situation.
All right, so I'm going to take this now, because admittedly, this happens every once in a while, where I will just let the reins go to see where this brings us down to. Now, a couple of times we've had a piece where I wanted to hook back through the original subject, and we kind of sidetracked off of that, but we're actually into a point where I can put that hook back in there again, because we're talking about we've kind of gotten at this point into social circles, how that helps us interact with each other. But this is the point where I can now bring the whole thing back around into the religion teaching. Religious circles, religious groupings, whether it's a church or a mosque or just a house, it doesn't matter. Congregation is a social gathering. Regardless of any other pieces, it is a gathering of people who have a common interest. Whether it's right or wrong, whether it's factual or bullshit, doesn't really much matter. Because
it's not an interest; it's a programming circle.
Hold on. What it came from is immaterial at the moment. Now, I'm not saying you're wrong. Just leave that piece aside for yet. There's a group of people who have a common interest for whatever reason, but that's where they're getting together with. Now, if it was science fiction, for instance, we would call them, whatever. Could be
I think
Trekkies,
you find
Trekkers,
most
whatever.
religious meetings are involuntary too.
For the younger, yes. Especially. For the older, it becomes a compulsion because it is common. It is muscle memory. It is just what you do.
I'm not so sure about that analogy because, no,
it is part of what the community does.
Right.
So you're following the tribe.
Yeah,
and
imitation.
And back to the learning by rote and narrative and whatever. It's
conformity.
It's Shujin was saying, a social group where everyone there understands certain or has possession of certain pieces of information, whether they're all correct and reflect reality or not is another matter. But everyone there has a common set of information and understands a common narrative. There. So and that all contributes to feelings of like comfort and familiarity and whatever, in the same way that everyone at the Star Trek convention understand, is aware of certain information and understand certain narratives.
Right.
Again, it doesn't particularly matter if those are mapped to reality or not. What matters is that you have a jumping off point of, a common understanding with the people you're going to meet in that situation.
Right. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's between so many things for me, because you say it's another thing whether it matches up with reality or not, like it's a detail, but it's actually essential. Because
not in this case. Now, let me explain. If we were to describe this as a weekly convention for people to discuss a book, i.e., a book club, which some could have fun and argue that that's exactly what church is. It's a bunch of people getting together to discuss a particular topic. Now, in this case, the topic is not reality, and they would claim it to be. Well, this is not too far away from people who believe that Star Trek is to be reality and get together on a weekend to discuss it in their complete Klingon outfits, which, by the way, Klingons, you can all die in a fire. Thank you very much.
Pretending it's reality and believing it's reality, that's completely, like, they know they're pretending. There's maybe a very select...
Have you seen LARPers?
Think that, no, there's a very select minority that are totally, like, living their whatever in actions.
I look at LARPing as a type of therapy.
Well, it's
people.
Yeah. Thank you. But here's the thing. Whether it's reality or not, they're getting together in a group of a social construct.
Yeah, but
which gives them a feeling of camaraderie and closeness that allows the teacher at the front of the room to tell them what is and what is not to be learned.
But at a Star Trek convention, they're all arguing with each other about what's quote unquote real.
That's
Star Trek
because
convention,
And in a
that's-
Bible class, who has a say about what's real? No, you've got the
Okay.
dictator at the
yeah,
front of the class
but
telling
in
you.
a Bible class, pretty much, I would think that as far as the Bible class goes, everybody attending it, or at least I would say the vast majority, are in there believing that it is real, and that the one or two people that you hope actually have a clear enough head to say, like, no, this is bullshit. Unfortunately, because of tribalism, conformity, and the fear of being ostracized, they're going to stay silent.
Yeah,
And
And-
basically eat
Dynamics
whatever
going on there because at the Star Trek convention, you've got guys going back with each other. Okay, this is what reality's like. No, this is what reality's like. Like their imaginary reality.
Yo, hold,
Which
hold
you're right,
on.
it's a
Hold on.
therapy. That's
And I come in
applied
speaking
to
as a
real
fur,
life.
going, y'all,
Right.
and me as a fur, I would walk into a Star Trek convention going, you know what, y'all's crazy. It's just a freaking TV show.
Okay, hold on a second, Chris.
But-
let me.
Yeah,
hold
I
on.
wanted to. If
Go
I-
ahead,
Yeah,
Chris.
Yeah,
Chris, do your
what I
thing,
wanted
and
to
then I'm
jump
gonna-
in is what you've talking about here is I think every different social situation and sort of social context has its own set of sort of conventions and ideas and rules and expectations of behavior.
Protocol.
So yeah, like as you say, like the Star Trek convention, it's expected that everyone's going to debate and argue over like the minutiae of like the transporter continuity problem or something,
That's the whole point of it all, isn't it?
right? And that's the fun of doing that. Other social situations have other rules and other expectations of behavior, and when you go into a new social environment, there's and this is where core social skills do come in. It's how well you integrate and fit in and enjoy that experience. It's based on how quickly you can pick up and understand and adapt to the expectations of that environment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The understanding in that is capital.
Yeah.
I can-
Because it's imitation. Because look at it through this lens. There's survival by imitation. Okay, like that guy over there is healthy, so he looks healthy, so I'm going to do what he's doing. And then there's some, survival through, you make your own value judgments about what's good or not. And I think you'll find at the Star Trek convention, you've got the second, and at the Bible meeting, you've got the first.
well, hold on.
And that
Sometimes
changes everything. If you're going to apply the social skills on top of that, it completely changes everything.
Okay, I could tell you the technological differences between an LN64 warp nacelle, but I could not speak in Klingon. There are people who not only speak in Klingon, which is a completely fictitious and made-up language, but will perform Shakespearean plays in, quote-unquote, the native original Klingon language. Now, my point is, these are still people who have gotten together for a particular social reason that gives them comfort, where they are willing to learn new things. Now, in the case of a sci-fi con, you will learn a whole bunch of different things which are effectively headcanon because there's no one right way to Star Trek. Unless you're talking to CBS, in which case they can just eat a big D. And I'm not talking about the 1701 either. But when you're
They
with
can't
religion,
eat that, but that's my opinion.
Well,
when you're with
the big-
religion, I'll get you. When you're with a religious organization, there is a one to learn off of, and that's whoever is leading the congregation at that moment.
That's what I was going to
Because
say.
there are so
yeah.
many different interpretations of the book, because there are so
Yes.
many different versions of the book.
because at the Star Trek convention, you don't have somebody standing there dictating to you, what the acceptable parameters of transporter theory are. Whereas when you go to church, you do have a dude standing there, or woman, or whoever standing there going, this is what this verse means. Because when I switched to the Calvinist sect, that's what I was given. Like, at least in the original church I was in, we had what I would consider to be a Bible quote study, where we would discuss meaning and differences of opinion were considered. But in the Calvinist sect, it was, here's a verse, and they would ask you, well, what do you think it means? And, we're all teenage, 13, 14. Yeah, like we would say, oh, well, maybe it means this or that. And then they would say, no, this is what it means. Memorize this.
Well,
and that's the difference.
Yeah, it was
just consider this for a second. Like, take the Star Trek convention. Okay, imagine all this fiction they're talking about. Imagine that it becomes reality. The people at that convention would know how to survive in that reality. Whereas, imagine if everything in the Bible class became real. Well, the people there would have no fucking clue how to survive still.
Oh, I don't know. No, hold on. If Revelation were to come true from the Bible, the people who knew what a mouth flaming sword Jesus looks like would not be the ones to finally have their brains explode from having it. And on top of it all, by the way, for those of you that are looking on the screen right now, just over my finger on the screen, on my bookshelf behind me is still in its wrapper the blueprints, official canon blueprints of 1701D from Star Trek The Next Generation. Now, I point this out, quite literally, on the screen for you, because it's not exactly, there is no one true way to do Star Trek, but there are accepted items done by the people who crafted what we know, and yes, I'm going to use your piece about this, what we know to be fictitious, a TV show that isn't in reality, but we would like it to be, although there are the fringe that really don't see it that way. And yes, I know. I really, really, really wish that there was going to be a Galaxy Quest TV show. I'm so sorry that he died. That's just, that hurts.
It's okay, because the Orville's coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I wanted to pull it all together this way is because we've mentioned how a comfortable social group will allow people to feel empowered enough to have fewer inhibitions, to be willing to discuss a little bit more. Whether or not they do is a different matter, because when you're in church, you don't discuss, but you're willing to listen more. You're willing to be taught more from an authority figure. Is it a true authority? No, because it's the social construct of the religion based on a book that we know full well is A, fallible, and B, bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, was that number 2 or B? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyway, but the point of it, I'm gonna use Roman number 3 at this point for the next one. Don't worry about it. And the thing that kills me about this whole damn thing is, for Catholics, you learned because you were told from the pulpit. And sometimes you were told, or at least once upon a time, and my father-in-law lamented the fact that it changed to English from Latin. So if you didn't know Latin, you didn't really know what the hell was going on. You stood up and you sat down and you kneeled and you got back up again and you got the wafer and went back with your gurgling belly because you had irritable bowel syndrome and GERD and all that shit. And then, okay, you get out and you go home and you think the demon's trying to get at you, and then, oh, that's fine, you're all good now a couple of days later, because that's what you opened yourself up to.
Yeah.
Why was it in Latin before?
Because that was what the Roman Catholic Church did. They didn't
actually
understand.
I've attended 2 Catholic services in my lifetime, or 3, 2 standard services and a wedding in my lifetime as going to a Roman Catholic church. And growing up Protestant.
Wow, what a difference.
Well, hell yeah. I'll tell you that much right now. Like growing up Lutheran, of course, you eventually find a certain you get the rhythm of what you're doing. And then I ended up going to an Anglican church one time. Very similar rhythm. As a matter of fact, I didn't even need to pick up the hymnal book because the rituals they were doing sounded exactly like what I was what I'd done in the Lutheran church. Now, what are you pointing at?
Read the damn thing. That was your word for it. I remember that very vividly.
I remember going to a church service, a Roman Catholic church in Halifax, as part of the Sea Cadet Corps at the time. We were actually touring the naval base there. Our captain happened to be Roman Catholic, so Sunday rolled around. The entire troop ended up going in full uniform to the Roman Catholic Church. I wasn't too impressed. The rituals, you're right, like you said, it was robotic.
No, I did not say it. You were the one that specifically said it once before. And
yeah.
I remember that because after thinking about it afterwards, it was like, holy fuck, he's right.
Yeah, no, like, I remember them going through, and they were reciting stuff in Latin. Like, I'm not talking the preacher, I'm talking the choir, or sorry, the congregation.
Yep.
Are repeating things back in Latin. And, you know, I'm looking at a couple of the other guys. I think there was at least one atheist in the group. There were a couple of Protestants. There was myself. We're just kind of looking at each other like, what the hell is this? And I think the funniest thing, or quite possibly the strangest thing I found, was one of the guys that I was in the Cadet Corps with, who on any given day was a badass. No, strike that. He wasn't a badass. He was an asshole. Okay. Bit of a joker, bit of a jerk, real. I would not exactly call him a model citizen of humanity at the time. Of course, he's grown up now. He's a professional helicopter pilot. You know, respect the shit out of him. At the time, I found him to be a dick. In that church, I didn't recognize him. He went through all the rituals with the same amount of precision that, you know, the older captain and stuff were going through. I'm trying to find a word. Reverence, I guess, that they conducted themselves with was like, I just wanted to look at this guy like, who are you and what have you done with this dick of a friend that I have? It was astonishing. And yeah, I still remember to this day. I kind of walk around like, you know, oh, you're Roman Catholic. Oh, okay, yeah. Domo arigato, Mr. Robato. You know, like
confidence and conformity.
I think so. Yeah. In that respect.
Yeah, and just as kind of a side note, if you want to bring this to Islam a bit, about the fact that the religious ceremonies were in Latin until fairly recently, comparatively speaking.
It was the 60s, if I remember.
You know, most the Quran is exclusively in Arab. For you know, everybody who has one, but there's not so many of these people who actually speak Arab. They memorize the verses. The same dynamic is going on as what went on with Latin in Christianity.
The vast majority of Muslims do not speak Arabic, and they memorize the Quran in Arabic. The ones that I have spoken to, they can recognize the Arabic letters. They could possibly speak what the Arabic is saying, but they don't actually have a cognizance of what the meaning is. So they could maybe look at a passage from the Quran, know how to say it, but have no idea what they just said.
Yeah,
From
well,
all
people,
of
like
this-
you said, it's a lot like how we in the West would do anything in Latin.
And it's just to divorce the authority from the from whoever depends on them. I mean, it's really just to make whatever the authority is teaching and make it inaccessible to the whoever's listening, so
Yeah,
that
which puts the
follower
authority person in a
has to
higher position
rely.
of power.
It's a way of making the follower rely on the leader.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's total dictate.
Yep, and you don't have to look any much further than the. Oh God! Now I'm trying to remember. I had it in the front of my head, and I can't remember what it was. The first Bible that was mass printed in German. Gutenberg's Bible. Thank you. I couldn't for the life of me remember.
Yes.
And he was prosecuted.
Mm-hmm.
Wait. Was it official prosecution or persecution from the church?
Persecuted because it was forbidden at the time to make translations of the Bible.
Persecution of some sort, at least.
It was illegal to translate the Bible into English until the reign of Elizabeth II in England. And Tyndale, who began the first English translation in England, was actually burnt as a heretic for doing so.
Yeah, and Gutenberg, he got into a whole mess of shit for translating it from. Now let's see if I remember it. I believe it was Latin, and was translated into the local German because that's what the common man spoke.
I think
I
don't know if it was the Gutenberg or one of the early ones
no,
was taken
Gutenberg
from the.
Translated it.
And I forgot whether it was Luther or someone else that did it. That translated it not from Latin but from the original Greek, or the early Greek version, and bypassed the Latin.
Oh, I know who that shit. I'm having a block. It's one of the one of Luther's predecessors.
Okay.
Kind of in the same chain of events that led to Luther doing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. All right. So we got.
That's actually that sect is actually where Christmas comes from. The anyways, yeah, that part of Germany.
Okay. So we're getting we're going to end up closing a little bit late because, well, we're almost 5 after, and we still gotta close up over here. I'm gonna make my close real quick, and I'll give since myself, Dalan, and Joseph have been speaking most. The rest of you guys, I'm going to give you an opportunity to speak instead to close out to kind of balance it off. But really quickly. The only thing that I'm going to close this with for this one is, you want to learn? Learn. You are not incumbent to have to learn from any one person. As a matter of fact, it's good for you to learn from a whole bunch of them. Find a good teacher, someone that's going to inspire you, and then put it into practice and ask and learn and question. There's no question that can't be asked. And if there is, that's when you need a new teacher and new friends. And Bing minimally to at least try to figure something out. I mean, come on. If just ask. I mean, all right, not Bing, but I mean, you get the idea. Something other than Answers in Genesis would be nice. Thanks. Tech, did you want to go ahead and say anything to close for yourself with all of this that's been going back and forth?
The only thing I could close with is basically something that I went through in high school. Well, not just me. A whole lot of people went through in high school. Where I went to high school, we had a particular government teacher who wasn't focused on just learning the facts and taking the tests. He wanted people to engage. Like, I, for all intents and purposes, probably should have failed that class, except I had such a high participation mark that pretty much carried everything over. And that was because my major problem was I couldn't remember which presidents held office at what time, how many years they were in office for, and other things. But what what did engage me in the class is what the different presidents were known for, some of the things that they had accomplished, some of the bad things they had done, some of the good things they had done, depending on which one we're talking about, mind you. And that was the general consensus in the class was, oh yeah, a lot of us all have problems remembering, okay, these particular dates for these particular people at these particular so-and-so. But we can remember which ones passed what kind of bills, which ones were known for what policies, which ones did little things behind the scenes that history kind of glosses over, but were really, really important. And, if I've said it before, I'll say it again. If more teachers made the classes that level of interesting, focus on those sorts of things, regardless of the topic, because I'm sorry, but I'm when people say, oh, you can't make math interesting, bull crap. I had a buddy who was horrible in math. Math is really easy for me. He was able to pass trigonometry because the teacher was able to make trigonometry interesting. We're talking about 3D spatial coordinates? Yeah. The guy was like, what's all this crap about? Teacher had him eating out of the palm of his hand halfway through the course. Okay? At that same time, don't be afraid to question the source. Don't be afraid to question the material. Anytime you're told you're not allowed to, you better be doing it.
That's the problem. Yep.
Matter of fact, Heretic Woman, you got it at this point.
Well, yeah, like you said, as the minute somebody says you can't question what you're being taught, that's when the time you should be. Because if you're looking to teach in a robust way, you're not going to limit the knowledge. And I think that's one reason why, to bring it back to the religion bit, why they do it as rote. If you try to teach religion in a more robust way and like speaking to different learning styles, and a lot of learning in actual school is based hopefully on critical thinking, that's not going to work if you're trying to teach religion. If you teach religion in a way that questioning is okay and discussing of ideas is okay, you're going to end up with a whole lot of little atheists and agnostics and not a bunch of Bible thumping Christian soldiers or
contributors to the offering plate.
Exactly, that too. So I think that's one reason why they do it that way. Is like, just follow the leader, repeat after me, memorize this, sing this again, and like Dalan said, don't forget to put your money in. And I remember that when I was going through confirmation classes in the United Church, that was one of the things. They're like, oh, you're big, you're grown up now, you get your own set of envelopes for the offering plate with your own name on them and all of that shit. And I remember thinking, ooh, I'm so proud I can give money to Jesus, in my own name and all of that. And then it's like, no, you're stealing my college money, you bastards. Like, no.
God, this all sounds familiar.
Yep.
Joe, anything you'd like to add at this point?
I'm sorry. Joe isn't here right now.
Joe is checked out with the nuns?
No, Joe's just checked out.
Fair enough.
Might be a former nun here.
There's a thing with all that.
Yeah, she was a nun, just not any longer.
Chris, congratulations. You get to play cleanup on this one.
Yeah, I was going to say I've recently attended two classes, two very different classes. One was very much focused on teaching to an exam syllabus, and was very quite heavy on rote. And one sec. And light on context, reasons, and real world applicability on there. And sometimes that's the way you need to do it. And it was one of these Dalan's probably familiar with them. The kind of like IT courses that you need to check a box for job specifications and stuff.
Painfully.
On there, and while there's often useful material in them, on there, a lot of it is just about passing the exam, checking the box. But as I say, it wasn't a very engaging way. Although people were engaged, it wasn't the most engaging way of teaching. It's not. A lot of it is not going to stick in my memory long term. The other class I took was just something that I'm interested in on there, and that was very light on facts, but very heavy on context, on reasons, on applicability on there. And I will say remember that and hopefully apply some of that on there, and just say it including sort of real world demonstrations. So that will stick with me. I can use that. They've shown me how I can use that, and in both cases, questions were invited, but and people were engaged. But it's the level of difference in the level of impact is massive.
Fair enough. So as always, everyone, thank you very much for being with us. We hope that you've enjoyed all of our perspectives and found something worthwhile in all the pieces that we've had to talk to you about tonight. Mm-hmm. So let me go ahead and thank everybody, Abby, for tonight, because, well, I've got a little bit of house cleaning to finish off with this evening. First off, of course, Chris, thanks for coming back temporarily for this and missing out on all the sleep you otherwise would have had, and missing out on last week because you were busy. You damn it. But congrats, seriously. Even though Chris has been, he mentioned earlier that he'd been gone for a while, and I did get the chance to check in. Like I said last week, he was busy, but I did find out that during the time that you've been gone, you've been doing well for yourself. So I'm publicly very proud and very glad for that, man. And thanks for having the time to come back. Thank you. It's been great to be back. Life has been going well, as Shujin said, and I've now got a lot more happening with my time at weekends, which is also when they clean the streets outside my flat at this time. So apologies for the background noise there.
Not as bad as Joseph's crows, I might add, but
yeah. But I hope to be back more often now things are settling down a bit.
Always got a seat for you, man.
Absolutely, because that's the way it is, man. You just say the word, you got it.
Yeah.
Of course, Joseph, thank you very much for your time, and from what I've understood, you've been having all kinds of fun getting your pieces together over there. So good luck with all those
pieces. What do you mean?
Well, I've been watching you over on Facebook. I've been noticing that you've been busy. You've got work that you've been working on and trying to get things together.
Oh yeah. Well,
can I make a recommendation though, Joseph?
What?
Well, I saw the thing about the landlord.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. So what? Like you said, what was it, like 2 years?
I've been gained. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say a week before. I mean, I know you've put an awful lot of work into that place. I mean, again, like Shujin, I
Trash
followed you on
it.
Facebook. Take a sledgehammer and beat the living hell out of it, man.
Yeah. Well, there's also in France you have to leave 3 months caution, and yeah, there's a few obstacles to that.
www.gofundme.com.
Yeah, if they break my caution, okay, I won't get into that now. But yeah, Shujin, I've been having a few trials. Let's just say.
Yeah, maybe our Patreon dollars should go together to cover Joseph's that 3 month caution thing, so that he can feel completely comfortable trashing the place without feeling any kind of financial burden on himself as a result.
This game has just started, and I still have 2 years here, by the way.
Well, we'll see how this plays out. Oh, yes. By the way, because I forgot, by the way, did you want to go ahead and plug your anything for yourself in the meantime, Joe?
Oh, now's not really the time, but I do have an upcoming project. I'm restoring maps that from the 19th century, official city maps, that were made by hand. They're the only existing record of the city at the time. I'm going to be restoring them to as close as possible to the original format, and I'm going to be releasing it to the public domain, and I'm going to be starting Kickstarter for that. So I'll let you know more about that as that goes on.
Excellent. Congratulations on that. And yes, I almost forgot, by the way, Chris, was there anything that you wanted to plug for yourself and such, contact information or anything like that?
No, not as plug as such on there. They're just I wanted to give a bit of a shout out though. I was at the Pride event in Manchester yesterday on there, and just wanted to give a shout out to that because it was absolutely fantastic. Huge numbers of people out there showing support, brilliantly organized event. So I would recommend it to anyone in the area for future years.
Excellent. UnrenownedTech, as always, thank you very much for your time this morning, and you have yourself a great sleep finally.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Can't say I blame you. Thanks, Ben. Joey, I know you've already checked out, but I'll just leave a note for housekeeping to roll you over and put you back into bed. How's that?
Housekeeping? Housekeeping? I need more lemon pledge.
You know what? I'm not even. No. We're just gonna roll right past that. Thank you very much for your time. You have yourself a good sleep too.
Just pick up his teddy bear from off the floor there.
Don't even get started on that. Talk about that. Heretic Woman.
Wouldn't. You have no idea what that teddy bear's been.
Heretic Woman.
Yes.
Would you kindly go ahead and plug your things before we go ahead and start talking about SPHs?
Okay, so and I'm a dork because I had my information up here and then I just
lost which tab it was in, perhaps?
Possibly, yes.
I think it's a 9,000th one.
Oh, here it is.
One of these days I'm going to open up like random.org and get a random number and see how close it actually gets to however many tabs
okay,
she's going to
so
open.
let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's like 25 or so-ish. I don't know. But anyway, so tomorrow, or well, yeah, I guess tomorrow now, we are having a couple of ladies from Atheist Talk is a podcast out of Minnesota. So I've just sort of met these ladies online, so we're always looking to plug new and upcoming shows. So we'll be enjoying that. Be fun. And I'm not sure what's going to happen the next week because I'm going to be on vacation. I'm leaving for Newfoundland next weekend, so that'll be fun. Never been there. Yeah, so next week, Beyond the Trailer Park, beyondthetrailerpark.com. You can find us on YouTube, Spreaker's been giving me a major headache lately, so we haven't been able to do live on Spreaker, but it will come out after the fact on the upload. But yeah, and I was very fortunate to appear on Steve McRae's channel right before this with R and Raw and a bunch of crazy debater folks and some interesting, I guess, fur flying in that specific. Yeah, there were some people that were really getting on Aaron's nerves and mine too, actually. But yeah, check it out. It's a great discussion. We are talking about what, from our perspective, be it theist or atheist, what is we find to be the most challenging argument to deal with when dating either side. So it's kind of fun. But yeah, so there's that, and I think that's about it for now.
Okay, we'll just make sure that we've got a link in the show for you guys so that you can check out the podcast over there. And since you're going to Newfoundland, remember, bring your translator.
Yes.
My hovercraft is full of
eels. Yes.
Just remember that one. That'll save you every time.
And whatever you do, don't get screeched.
No, I'm not. And I'm not kissing the damn fish either.
Dalan,
I am no longer infected.
Dalan, thank you for your time, of course, tonight. And thank you for all the work that you've been putting in. And by all means, plug all of the things.
Well, of course, we've got the audio version of this show, which I've been maintaining, or trying my best to maintain on a more regular basis over at holycrapthevlogcast.com. And of course, if you want to read any random thoughts from this guy, you can always go over to inthewind.yo5.ca, which is my own blog. Sort of push out the occasional thought balloon when I get the chance. Just recently updated it with a touch of all the crap I've been going through these past little bit. Why a couple of weeks ago was just wasn't exactly having the best time. And I kind of explained it all there.
Well, we are glad, of course, to have you back in something resembling One Piece.
Well, I'm still in one piece, but the pieces, the sum that makes up the whole is a couple of pieces short. But again, that's another story entirely.
Exactly enough. So, of course, a large thank you to Jake Farr-Wharton. Farr-Wharton from Australia. Thank you very much for your time.
He's going to get even for that, right?
Yes, he's probably going to do it. But you know what? When push comes to shove, when the Imaginary Friend Show Dotcom Podcast goes looking for a last-minute host, who does he call on? He calls everybody else, and then he gets to me, and that's the point where, because I mean, I'm kind of alphabetically, I'm kind of low on the depth chart. But
well, hey, if it's any consolation, he's never called me.
Well, it's kind of hard to get you. I mean, he's got to push the electrons all the way over to here, and then for him to get it over to you there in Canada where it's cold, he's got to push harder. And I mean, to make it all the way up to how tall you are, it's kind of hard. I mean, it's just the way that I had to.
So what you're saying is that to avoid like all the internets, I should just move up to Yellowknife. Is that what you're saying?
Nineveh would probably be you very nicely right about now. Yes.
Yeah. I just got into a conversation with some guys at work this week about Yellowknife and the quips you've been making towards it. And this one guy, he says, "Why the hell would you want to move up to Yellowknife?" I'm like, have you seen the snowmobiles for sale these days? I want to justify that kind of purchase.
Actually, you know what? I don't have I don't have Yellowknife on. Oh, I have to go looking.
Don't you have to have a dog sled in Yellowknife?
No. They actually allow gas powered sleds. So.
Oh, okay.
That's.
I'm thinking.
So you feed the dogs beans, and you get nitrous.
What's the forecast for Yellowknife?
Well, according to what I've got right now, it's 14. Wow, look at that. not bad. 14 with a low of 12.
Oh,
it's
it didn't.
positively balmy.
It didn't read it out. It was supposed to read it out loud for you.
I heard it, but it was very low.
Yeah, it's let's see, 14 degrees high for Monday, 15 Tuesday, 19 Wednesday.
What kind of degrees are those?
Real degrees.
Your kind of degrees.
The
The
real,
only kind.
So the degrees the rest of the world is using.
Yes. we don't speak Trump. I'm sorry.
But is it just one side? In Toronto, I heard somebody say on Facebook it's 4 degrees. It was 4 degrees a few days ago.
It's entirely possible. Yeah, we've had some.
It's only 9 right now.
So it's warmer in the north than it is in the south.
Welcome to climate change, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. So, last piece of house cleaning that I got to take care of over here. Item number 1, of course. Happy birthday, Tiny Tribble.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
15 years old this week, and wow,
Happy birthday!
Yeah, appreciate it. Got a shout out from a YouTuber / Elite Dangerous flyer, Commander Yamix. Thank you. Talked about you before. And I'm not going to name names, but believe it or not, we do have someone that was looking to contribute to us via Patreon already. Now, here's the thing. It was somebody in the UK. They wanted to give a one-time payment, which I can't seem to find a way of doing on Patreon directly.
You can.
Okay, I need to go looking around to try to figure out how to do that thing. But in any case, I didn't know how to do that one. I had heard kind of glitchy ways of doing it, of, you know, contributing once, wait a couple of days for that to go through and then cancel. They had also suggested, you know, is there another way that they could do a one-off? I do have a Patreon account for, a PayPal account for that. Some people don't do PayPal for various reasons. So I'm going to be investigating a couple of other possible ways that people could do.
Yeah, I've got a perfect solution, Shujin. Well, if they're anywhere in the Manchester area, if they see me out, they're welcome to supply me with beer, and I'll pass it on.
That's perfectly fine. Anyway, but we'll be looking into that. The pieces that I wanted to say was, first off, if you are listening, and I sincerely hope that you are, on behalf of all of us, in all seriousness, thank you. I'm totally flattered that you would want to, and I'm going to tell everybody the same thing that I told you. And if you want to go ahead and post it up somewhere, by all means, feel free. I told them this: if the exchange, and why it would be an exchange for you, I'm not entirely certain, but the point of it is, if the exchange for you to us would effectively negate the amount of money, don't send us the money. Put it to a local organization that will help, a local cancer research hospital, some organization that's doing charity work. Maybe do it in our name, but if it's going to be some kind of a problem this way, don't do it. Don't worry about it. We're still going to be here no matter what. We want the money to go. Sure, we would love the money, but more important, that the money gets used for something worthwhile. And I'm pretty sure that I can speak pretty well on behalf of all of us. If that's the way it's got to be, do it local, do good with it. And don't worry, we're still going to be here. And like I said to Heretic Woman before we got to this to the beginning of the show, tell me when I'm wrong. See, I got into it with somebody, and I had her read over the entire exchange that I had with this person. And I said, go ahead, keep reading, and stop when I've got a wrong argument. And nope, just kept reading. So thank you. Meantime, we do have to get out of here. And yeah, it's a little bit of a longer episode. Sorry about that, guys. But, you know, thanks for hanging in with us. And we really do appreciate it. And the support that we've gotten, whether if it's for looking to contribute money or not, if it's just hanging in there with us, it's appreciated. It really, really is. And don't worry, we're going to keep doing, because, well, so long as it's fun, I'm going to keep doing it no matter what. Because truth be told, I like hearing myself talk. I don't get that either. Don't worry about it. Meantime, please stay safe. We'll be looking forward to seeing you guys again next time. Until the next time we get together, everyone, of course, as always, I wish you all the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. My wife, my Fujin, 15 years old, man. And you know what? We done good.
You're here.
Not today, Fujin. I love you. I miss you. Dream of me. Till the next time we get together, everyone, as always, good night.
Good night.